This is the Guerrilla Social Work Podcast, your crackerjack clinical insurgents pitting evidence against anecdotes, with your hosts, Jeff Redheadophile Moore, and yours faithfully, Mace Warren. Jeff and I are both forensic psychotherapists that specialize in the clinical treatment of folks involved in the criminal justice system. We love sharing our misguided musings with all of you, and we thank you so much for your ongoing listenership. Today we sit down with Hilary Hislop. Hilary is a certified social worker with 6 years of experience working in the social work field. Out of those 6 years of experience, she has worked with troubled at-risk youth, homelessness, substance abuse, and sex offenders. Hilary specializes in cognitive behavioral therapy, case management, and motivational interviewing. Hilary is a powerful force in the workplace and uses her positive attitude and tireless energy to encourage others to work hard and succeed. If you haven't already, take a hike over to the 5-star rating and go ahead and punch it right in the throat. Do it now. Stay away from that 1-star rating button. Those of you who do 3 stars, you guys are weirdos. I don't even want you to listen to the show anymore. Just kidding. And now, on with the show. Wait, when you're sick, you what?
My voice deepens.
Oh, like a horse voice?
No, like
not like you sound like a horse.
Like Flicka.
Flicka? Who's
like
Flicka?
you know,
Standard horse names like Spot for dogs.
Flicka is a standard horse name?
Look it up.
No.
Look it up.
No, dude. They normally have
Flicka.
They normally have no, it's like
Bro, I'm
they
right.
have names like Count of Monte Bisto or Count of Monte,
Like racing horses.
Yeah.
I'm talking about like a pet horse.
No, dude, nobody names their horse Flicka.
Look it up.
But they. What I was saying is
It's the most popular horse name.
Okay, Hilary, you don't sound like a horse.
I'm 28.
That's all I'm trying to get.
Yeah, how did we get onto
by.
this?
Because I was saying a horse voice. How do you spell that? H-O-A-R-S?
You got to throw an A in there. Otherwise
Yeah.
it's Flicka.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we were commenting on Hilary's soft voice. So it'll pick up though.
yes,
Right? Yeah.
no,
It'll
it
be. No,
never
it
changes.
No.
I try to make
keeping
it sound
right here.
higher,
I'm gonna
but
say
it
you
doesn't.
right like this.
We're genuinely screwed. That's cool. Dude, so I was you oh no, you haven't gone through this, Hilary, but Jeff and I, one of the things that I actually was thinking about when I invited you on here was because you got us onto that documentary Untouchable, right?
Yeah.
So Jeff and I, we did a reaction video. We did a reaction video to that, and it was going to be like a 3-part series. And then the first time that we did that, I just forgot to feed. Did you notice how loud the audio was in our headphones? Did you notice that?
I noticed. No, I didn't pay attention.
Your ears are just blown.
They're huge.
Yeah, I know they're huge.
Yeah.
But like, so when we were listening to that, it was all coming through this, and I was like, gosh, that sounds really loud. And then I realized that the audio from the documentary was not fed into it. So we had to scrap that whole episode. And there was some pretty good.
It was our best work yet, and now it's forever gone.
Yeah, now none of you can ever see that. Yeah. So take that, suckers.
Sad day.
Well, it would have been, seriously, I was listening to it and I was like, can I salvage it? Because you kind of heard some stuff in the background, you know? But it was really just us sitting there in complete silence, and then every now and then commenting. It'd be like, oh, so
That
horrible.
sucks.
So we'll do it again. But that's a pretty crazy doc, man, for sure.
Yeah, it's pretty hard, like doing groups, but I think it's very beneficial for them.
Compared to, I was wondering, because when you're doing groups, like in the past, Jeff and I have seen like old school treatment plans from other programs, and one of the assignments or group work was that they watched The Woodsman, and that's a drama with Kevin Bacon, and who's the rap? Mos Def. Mos Def is in there, and that's his PO. I was like, that's Mos Def. and then one of the group members was like, yeah, Mos Def. I'm like, oh god, no. You like
Most definitely.
Yeah. Okay. All right. You got it. So, but no, I was watching it, and I watched this with the clients and I was like, what's this? And it was just a leftover relic from the previous program. And then all that we got from it really was, oh yeah, it's kind of like that. You know what I mean? That's about it. Like clients could say it's kind of like that, but that doc is, I mean, like it speaks to a lot of like stuff that they have to go through and maybe some of the, like how it got there, the origins of that stuff.
Yeah.
Because I think it's kind of important, but I don't know how clients reacted when you showed in group.
The first session, it's the very first part of the movie. So that's a pretty like hard session for them to, go through because of the language that's used in it, and that lobbyist dude is he's just out to slit people's throats. So they have a hard time with that. So I try to process like what their experience is like watching that, and they're like, that's exactly what we go through on a daily basis compared to other people don't have to experience that.
So they end up kind of like relating to it. What's the general mood, I guess? Do they get all riled up, or do they kind of get like, this is what it's like?
Some of them get really angry with it.
How do you deal with that?
See
ya. Good luck.
Dials the cops.
Yeah.
Well, I just
she calls the cops on them.
I have them just kind of get like I let them express themselves before they leave, and I'm just like, if you need a little bit more time after group, I'm totally cool with like, processing some more with you, so that you're not leaving completely so pissed off that you're going to go do something stupid.
Luckily it's in Florida, but it's like, and it's so far, I guess the offenders that they picked, those were, I was feeling those a little cooked. It was a little cherry picked because the two was, we got the old man and we got the girl, right? That's right. And then I was like, and you watch it and you have some sympathy for him, right? Mm-hmm. Like you're just kind of like, you can't help it because I mean it's not. So I wonder,
especially the girl.
Yeah, does it kind of continue in that vein, which is fine, but does it? I mean, well, no, we shouldn't spoil it. I want organic because you've seen it and I haven't.
That's right.
So I want some organic reaction to it, but I kind of, the general theme of this was, and I don't know, I'm really curious how it ends because or where it goes because, and also, and again, we don't need to get into it, but how his daughter ultimately reacts to it. Because sometimes I think that it seems like he's so hardcore. It's almost like, is it about him or is it about his daughter or is it about future? Like, is this almost, we're like, 15 minutes in and I'm like, seems more about him than anything.
Right.
Yeah. I mean? That's what clients comment on, like where it's like he has like some guilt and shame around not being around for his daughter. When he could have helped prevent a lot of what happened to her.
Yeah, which makes sense.
And so he's like reacting now, and
so now he's
over the top
he's like super pissed off, and now he's just trying to take it out on everyone else that has to do with it.
Right. Yeah. Well, and that to me, when I was watching that, like compared to, because it's tough in this regard, because like I was thinking about the experiences that you've had and how you relate to clients and like how like kind of important that is. And it's weird because you would never, I don't think you could ever have a client who committed like a sex offense, like become a therapist. Could they? Is that possible?
I don't know, but I've had a client that upon the time of discharging him, he was actively applying to get into graduate school because he wanted to do that. And I haven't followed up with him to find out.
I wonder, I haven't looked at, I've looked at a lot of, because when it comes down to licensing, it's always like some gray area, because other areas where it's just like crimes or substance use or whatever, I mean, they're totally cool with that. But this like person crimes and there's only one crime that's worse than having a sex offense on your record. You know what it is?
What's that?
Fraud. Like,
no one's going to hire you.
Dude, you are dead. Like if you get, like if it's any type of fraud or embezzlement or anything, like you're basically, I mean, you're cooked, man.
That's true.
I don't even think McDonald's is going to hire you.
Yeah.
Hell, McDonald's $15 an hour.
Yeah.
Get a job at McDonald's.
Yeah. They're paying good now.
Yeah. Hey, so before we get in this, I have some ground rules, by the way.
Yeah.
We collectively cannot use the word journey at all. We will not be talking about Hilary's journey one bit. That word needs to be retired, by the way. Don't you think?
Deal.
Well, dude, here's what I'm saying about this. Like, it's
played out.
Well, it's a top shelf word, man. Like, it's a top shelf word that should be reserved for like the Iliad or something.
The hero's journey.
Yeah. Like, I should only hear that word when I'm, on the last scene of God of War, and he's about to fight, Thor's brother, and he's like, "I've come through this journey." I'm like, okay, yeah, because I've been playing this for 72 hours, and that was a journey. I don't want to hear about your job at Denny's being a journey. You know what I mean? Like, this is
started out washing dishes, and it's been quite the journey working my way up to GM.
But it's on the gram, dude. They're like, "Just want you guys along for this journey." I'm like, dude, you're working at Denny's, and nothing against Denny's. I mean, we all got to start in the mailroom.
It's not a journey, though.
It's not. Yeah, just
be real.
Yeah, just say, "Hey, I'm working at Denny's. Give me a like." Like, I mean, that's it, or whatever. Do they have likes on Instagram?
Yeah, that's the hearts.
The hearts.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds lame, considered though.
Well, yeah, because like it's just a heart that you like click on, and that's considered a like.
Okay.
With that said, tell us how
Yeah. No. So I am genuinely impressed with Hilary. That's why we brought her on today. So I was just thinking, like, well, I don't know. Like, first of all, how did you even come to work for us? Like, how did you want to get hooked up with us or anything? Because it sounds like it was through a previous guest that we've had, right?
Yes. So I worked at Davis Behavioral Health at this time, and my boss, Brett Bartriff.
Shout out to
Brett. So he was a guest on your guys' show, and he was talking about the program that he helped create and that I was working for, which was the Recovery Support Specialist team.
I looked that up. It's the least downloaded episode we have. I'm kidding, Brett. I'm kidding.
So I was interested to listen to it. So I listened to the whole episode, and it just was really interesting. I thought you guys were interesting. And so I started listening to more episodes, and then I started my master's program, and I had to pick an internship. So I could have just stayed there and just made it a little bit, easier transfer over. But I was like, no, Brett, I want you to hook me up with the alpha guys.
Nice. That's cool.
So he reached out to Jeff, and then the rest is history.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So, and how long have you been working with Alpha?
This is 3 years now.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Time flies, dude.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It's half the time I don't even know sometimes, like, how long people have been with us.
Yeah. We just kind of stumbled across that. It had been 3 years.
Yeah.
Dang.
This March. Yeah.
That's way cool. And you have a pretty big announcement too in recent, this last month, right?
In February.
And what happened then?
I passed my CSW test.
Holla. Yeah. So, and that was, now that test, I swear, like it's pretty infamous. You know what I mean? Like, at least Jeff and I have talked about this damn test, like, how many times on this podcast?
A couple.
Yeah. You know what's funny about that is because you passed, and like you have a really good understanding of this, right?
Yes.
Because how many times did you have to take that thing?
That was my eighth time taking it.
Which is okay. Now, for those of you who are listening to this, and if you go to, so for budding students, like if you're in, say, your bachelor's of social work, and you're coming into this, and you're like, well, I'm going to apply for my master's. You know what's kind of crazy about this is, because where did you go?
I went to Our Lady of the Lake University.
So there are so many places that don't tell you the next steps after you graduate, which is you have to take an exam, and then after you pass that exam, then you have to apply for a license. Like, how many times have we ran into that?
Like several times.
And it's not, I don't blame the people at all. Like, this is totally a university thing.
Schools need to.
Well, that, and if you're waiting to take the test, you have to apply for your temporary license too.
And they changed
CSWI.
Yep.
Dude, and they changed the rules too, didn't they? Like, it used to be like you had like a 6-month grace period, and now it's like you have 0 grace period.
Yeah.
Like, you have to just take it and be ready to rock and roll.
What is it now? So when you graduate from graduate school, it like is, I mean, I'm asking you to, I guess, walk back your mind a year or two, but is it, do you have to get your CSW, like you have to petition Doppel, or you have to talk to your school to get transcripts sent to Doppel to get your CSWI.
Yeah. So you have to get your you have to apply just like all your other licenses on Doppel. You have to apply for the CSWI, and that's where you have your school send your transcripts, and then you have to fill out like the information about your background and stuff, and then pay the money, of course.
Okay. Yeah. So one thing, because the test scares the hell out of everybody. I mean, I remember when I was finishing up graduate school while I was studying for it, because I had a job that was on the line. Contingent
tell you
upon
that?
me. Yeah, oh, yeah. They did. Yeah.
How did they tell it to you though?
So
Like, if you don't pass, then
Yes.
they have it like a rhyme to it. If you don't pass, kiss my ass.
Yeah. It was something like that. It was like in February when I found out, and they said they were going to hold the job until that the job was open right then and there. And I said, well, I don't graduate until May, and I plan on taking the test in July. I want to give myself a couple months to study. Long story short, they said, well, the job's open now. You need to take it like as soon as you graduate and pass it. We'll hold the job until then. And I did, but I guess my point is that like I legit took years off my life stressing on that damn thing. And I can
you
imagine
have like homelessness fantasies and stuff?
Yeah, no, I thought my wife was going to leave me.
He was telling me about it. He's like, I was thinking of myself in the gutter.
Yeah, I was.
Scraps.
Yeah. I was like, this is, I completely catastrophized that shit. But, I mean, the stress you had weighing on you, like what advice would you give people that are listening right now that are studying for the test to like just get through it? What's the secret sauce?
I know a lot of what had to do with me was just like letting go of those expectations of passing.
Oh,
so like you went into it and just said, I'm I can fail, whatever. I mean, and because after every time, like, I mean, what I was always super pumped about was, I mean, when people had to take their tests or fail, I never knew, but I knew when Hilary talked to me, because she sent me a text and she'd be stoked about it, and she'd be like, "I'm taking the test. I'm gonna punch that sucker in the throat and all this." I'm like, "Yeah, okay,
kill it,
right?" Yeah. That's what I mean. Like, yeah, that's what I want to hear. And that was, and then right afterward, it would be like, I missed it by this many. That's okay though, and I'm ready to rock and roll on the next one. Like always a super killer attitude. Like that's what I'm wondering, is because people get very demoralized, and it's okay to be disappointed, but especially nowadays, man, it's like so tough to have that stick-to-itiveness. You know what I mean? Like it's just so hard to follow through. So how did letting go of your expectation of passing kind of help you through that?
So I did a lot of private tutoring with Philip Littrell off of YouTube, which he's awesome. And I did a lot of therapy.
Yeah.
I went to a hypnotherapist, and we did a lot of different like meditations and like letting go and doing tapping meditations too.
Really? A hypnotherapist?
Yeah.
Did they like with the watch and shit, or?
No, so like,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
No. So a lot of like hypnotherapy is like just basically a form of meditation to like, she would guide me through meditations on like what is holding me back and asking my subconscious on like, what is holding me back? And then I would have like visualizations in my brain of like, what was holding me back, which was like failure to fail. Like, I had a big problem with failing, and because I had always high expectations of I can do this. I can do really good at it and everything. But that failure to fail was like really hard for me to overcome. And so,
failure to fail, is that like, obviously just more about accepting that it's a possibility and kind of accepting that that's just kind of a byproduct. It's almost like failure. I mean, people.
I haven't heard a word that way before.
Failure to fail. I mean, it's kind of like how we've talked about this, and I still want to refine it a little bit more, but like, how we talked about like the opposite of success is not failure. like failure's a byproduct or kind of a side effect of success. Like it has to happen in order for you to get there. And, but the opposite of success is quitting. You know, that's the real opposite of, because you control it. Like failure at least came off of the fact that you gave it an effort, right? Quitting, you control that. You get to decide whether or not that happened. And just quitting in and of itself seems just so much more, I don't know.
Well, failure doesn't have to be an end point, right?
Right. Whereas quitting, you're controlling that end point. So is that kind of what she was like keying in on?
Well, like that, and like changing my perspective on that fear to fail, and being able to accept that it was okay if I did fail, because then I learned every time. Yeah. And then self-doubt was also another big one for me too.
Yeah.
To overcome.
Because the thing I think that really sucks about that test is it's not a great measurement of like clinical ability.
I know.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, seriously.
I mean, even when I looked up, so when I'm doing classes, I was kind of asking students, like when they're getting, and I teach SUDSI SUDSI students, and when they're getting ready to take their test, you look it up, what does the test measure? And all it measures is the minimum competence, like in order to do the work. That's all it's measuring, like that you meet the minimum standard, right? So if you passed it your first time, you have equal amount of chance of being a horrible therapist.
Well, yeah. And here's the thing, and I don't have a good answer to this as far as like, well, how could you develop a test that would accurately predict like a good therapist? But like that test does nothing to predict how the therapist then sitting with the client, how they actually perform when a person sitting across from them. When, a client dealing with this set of nonsense comes in, and then a completely different person has this, like, is the therapist going to be effective at connecting with them, of pulling from whatever treatment modalities they have and executing it maybe measures the ability to like memorize some stuff. So yeah, I don't know what that would be though. I don't know what kind of how you would test a person's actual ability to help somebody work through something. But yeah, the test doesn't really seem to do that. No. I don't think so either. Like it, if anything, it's kind of like it. I mean, yeah, it does. I think like, again, it just is testing like really how well you can take the test. Cause you gave me some really good advice on that and told me, don't try to really cram knowledge into your brain. Like really just try to focus on how to take the test. Which I was like, oh yeah, that's helpful. Like I liked that whole idea. So right. No, well, congrats though. I mean, I mean, more than, I genuinely more than other people who like, I'm happier for you than I have been for other people in the past. Hell yeah.
When they've said, oh, I passed my test. I'm like, oh, cool. Like great. Like when I heard that, I was like super stoked. Like, I think you and I were like, dude, we got to take her out to dinner. You know what I mean? Like, actually. Yeah. Like we got to celebrate this sushi. Yeah. Yes. Oh dude, we know a good spot. Where is that place down in Ogden?
Tona.
Oh yeah, shout out to Tona.
Yep.
Yeah. Does Natalie still, one of our guests on the podcast, is she still a manager down there? Yeah. Okay. We'll get. We won't get hooked up. She never hooked up. She probably charges us double every time that we go in there. But
we'll make it happen.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, we need to do that for sure. So, but Jeff was asking you to like advice on that, but like I don't know. It seems like when I was studying, Jeff told me, and I had a really cush circumstance. Like I could sit for hours and hours and hours. And I took my test the day after I graduated. And 6 months leading up to that, all I did was sit in a room and study. Like that's all I did. But like you had life stuff happening, right?
Yes,
like,
a lot of life.
Yeah. Can you talk about that a little bit? Like what were you dealing with that combated with your ability to study and stuff?
Well, I'm a single mom of 3 kids.
Okay. That'll do it.
That's a start.
Right.
So there's that. And then my mom's been in and out of the hospital for a couple months. Yeah. And, she's not quite home yet. But projected she'll be home this month. Okay. At the end of this month. So
good.
Hopefully.
So all those things going on. That's a lot. I know. And still managing to tutor, study, go to hypnotherapy. You know what I mean?
And work.
And work.
Yeah, let's not forget that part.
You were like our group gal.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, because we were that's where I looked at it and I was like, oh, Hilary's like talented, you know what I mean? And as a and she does really well identifying with clients. I was like, no way, man. Like we got to figure this out, you know? So a lot of our
beat
groups,
this damn test.
Yeah, a lot of our groups don't have to be, you know, facilitated by a licensed therapist. We're like, oh, let's just kick her the groups, man.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of like what I learned from that field dude was like learning how to break down the questions so that you're knowing what the key information that they're wanting as far as figuring out what answer is correct. And then also he said, don't let one person, one situation or anything to affect you to be able to go in on test day and kill it.
Yeah.
So,
Luttrell?
Yeah, Philip Luttrell.
Philip Luttrell.
Philip Luttrell. Shout out
to Phil.
Yeah, YouTube. Check him out. Dude, that is so true. I was looking at some of those test questions, and like one of them was it deliberately throws you like red herrings and stuff. Like it's like, you know, a 36-year-old Hispanic male comes into your office with a history of PTSD and schizophrenia, and all this history of stuff, you know, and then it goes into, you know, like it throws a little snippet in there, and it was like, what would you do first? What's the first thing you should do? And like, of course, the answer is like informed consent or something.
And you're like, wait, what, he was 36 though?
Okay,
like,
he's Hispanic.
Yeah.
Oh, he's got PTSD. Oh, okay,
Yeah.
and he has schizophrenia.
Yeah.
Do Hispanics look you in the eye? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. What about machismo? I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Who cares? And it's like informed
Yeah.
consent. Like it's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
one, like
Right.
real simple. You know what I mean?
All these damn red herrings and shit. Like, yeah.
But you're so
Yeah.
focused on nonsense,
Yeah.
and it like you're like, you panic, you know.
Yeah.
And I when I was taking and I tell this all the time to like, and it works different for everybody is what I've learned, but I was taking these tests that gave you answers, and I went through a practice test the first time, bombed it, and I was like, okay, I give up, you know, like, and then I was like, okay, hold on, let's figure this out.
Yep.
And then I started going through each one of them and looking at the answer and why the other three were wrong and why this one was right. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yep.
Like that was super helpful for me to kind of get through that. But man, it's just such a silly measurement. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't speak to, like, I think more than a lot of the therapists that we work with, I think you have a really unique ability to have empathy and identify with clients, and they identify with you. And like, what is it about like your history that you feel like your life story that kind of brings you to this point that you feel like clients can identify with really well? And what brings that? Because I don't know, sometimes we bring that. It's hard to even identify sometimes with clients because they're like, oh, what have you gone through? And I'm like, I don't know, I was a little shit when I was a kid, so I kind of know what you're going. I was like, no, you don't know what I'm going through. So I don't know, what is it, what's your life history that feels like you do better with clients identifying with you and working with you?
I think a lot of it is like, you know, in the introduction like session of groups is to like, you know, to introduce yourself to the clients, right?
Uh-huh.
So even when new clients come into my group, I try to remember to like introduce myself, but sometimes I forget. But part of that is what brought me to the social work field.
Yeah.
And so with that, it was basically me being in recovery from substance abuse.
Uh-huh.
And I know when I started going to school for nursing because I got my CNA. I was like, oh, I want to help people. I want to go into nursing. I got this. And then I started taking like prerequisite classes for that. And I was like, this is not for me.
Was it
really?
was it, because CNAs, it's like, if you're going to be a nurse, there's no way around it.
You're
At one point or another, you have to wipe an ass, right?
Yeah. Well, I had to
What?
do my internship.
Seems like you could pay a fee.
Initiation, bro. You know? Yeah.
I had to go do an internship to get my CNA.
Yeah.
And I had to do hours at like I can't remember what the retirement home's called, but it's right off of in South Ogden.
Yeah. Shady Oaks. No,
Yeah.
I'm making this
Yeah,
up,
yeah.
dude.
It's called something different, but when I did it, it was like something Manor. But
Shady
anyways,
Oaks Manor.
Yeah.
There's some generic nonsense like
yeah.
that every time.
Yeah, but the problem was I couldn't get a job with my criminal background.
Yeah.
And so it was really hard for me. It was really discouraging. And so I was like, well, I'll just focus on going to school, being a mom. And because I was living at home with my parents, so I was able to not have to have a lot of different bills. So I was able to just work part-time. So I when I started doing like classes for like other intro classes, I took intro to social work, and I was just like, oh, this is the field.
Oh, yeah.
Then I can go into, and I can be a therapist, or I can try to, go into lobbying or whatever to help change policies if I want to.
Yeah.
And so that's mainly why I went into social work.
What was it about that class? Like what that you're, because you were thinking CNA, the prerequisites in that field steered you away. You got into intro to social work. What grabbed your attention?
I think it was mainly like where I'm able to help people that also have a similar background that I did.
Got you.
So you were hearing stories, like you're going through social work and you hear like obvious they just refer to clients and things that they've gone through and so on and so forth, and you feel like as a result of having been there and done that and those life experiences, I mean there's an obvious parallel between what you've gone through and kind of what they've gone through.
Yeah, because I also did the court order treatment too, and so especially for those resistant clients that they're like, oh, this is just BS that I have to do this, and I'm just like, I understand because I've been there, but there comes a point to where you can decide if you want to work on yourself or not.
Yeah.
Because that's all treatment is working on yourself to be a better person so that you can, live a better life.
So wow, I did not know that. So your criminal charges had a court-ordered mandate attached to them.
Yeah, I had to do a substance abuse treatment through JJS.
How was that for you? So juvenile justice services?
It was... Oh wait, is it JSS? JSS. No, not JJS. Sorry.
Some series of letters and
Judicial
numbers.
Supervision Services.
Oh, okay. Private probation.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
sorry, my bad.
Gotcha.
It wasn't JJS.
No.
I wanted to work at JJS at some point, but then
So
I
what
no.
was that like? What's that like being told you have to go do this, and if you don't, then what was the consequence?
Going to jail.
Okay. So what was that like being told like you have to go do that? Where was your motivation at that time?
My motivation at the time, because I was a new mom, my oldest daughter was only like 2 to 3 months old.
Oh, no, that is so young, dude.
When I did my assessment with them, and I just thought it was BS. And my whole plan was to, get through it, get off and start using it again.
Yeah.
To be honest, that was my plan.
Okay.
And then like there was something that like just clicked in my head at some point that I was just like, no, I don't want that lifestyle anymore. And I need to do better for my daughter.
Wow.
Was it like a thing, like an event that happened, or just sort of the gradual, I don't know, living a sober lifestyle, going to classes, like it just sort of wore on you, or is it not really a dichotomy like that?
Well, I think it kind of was like a little bit of both, to the effect of like, when you get to a point of being in recovery for so long, it takes your brain 12 months for it to heal majority of itself. So it takes a good 12 months for you to get back to somewhat normal of a brain.
What was the drug that caused you the most problems?
Heroin.
Okay. All right. So, God, dude, have either of you watched that Dope Sick on Hulu?
No, I haven't.
Oh, it's dude. I watched it and it's like, so if you haven't watched it, you should. It goes through like, so this is from the who's the family that made OxyContin? Now I forget their names. Unimportant.
The Koch brothers.
Don't cancel us. Oh, you wouldn't get canceled for saying that. The Koch brothers. Yeah, no. I can't remember it. Gosh. Okay, somebody knows it. And they're shouting it at their speakers right now. But anyway, that family, like it was so deliberate, the manufacturing of that drug, and like knowing how addictive it was, and they went through really. I think they did a good job. It was a drama, but they did a good job going through like how they cooked the data and how they presented it to doctors, and like
to say it was non-addictive and stuff.
Right. It was. Yeah. It is the craziest thing.
Like Oxy.
Yeah, for Oxy, and then they got through that, and yeah, it just is, and how long it took, like. Everybody shouting from the rooftops from the DEA to like, attorneys generals and looking into everything, and then finally the FDA to change something, and even then it still kept going. It's so crazy. Like they did a good job of pointing it out. And then I mean it's in a lot of ways that's how like a lot of the stuff became brilliant. But it's a good watch. You should watch
Dope
it.
sick.
Yeah, good stuff. Has Michael Keaton in it. So
is that what you got in trouble for then, was heroin? Like possession or something?
I got some possession charges, but most of mine were theft.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And so, all right. So your plan was early on was, let's just get this shit over with. I'll shake my head and smile at the therapist, and you can tell me what a good job I'm doing, and then I'll graduate and I can get back and start having fun again. And then along the way, like, so what you were kind of saying your brain healed. I mean, right?
Yeah.
Is sort of what we're guessing. And things and it wasn't a single event that clicked. It just sort of, you had a realization partway through.
the Sacklers.
Yeah, I think
That's who it was.
Oh, the Sacklers.
Sackler family. Damn it.
You had to Google it.
I was going to say Sullivans, and I knew that wasn't right. I was like, that's not right.
Yeah, I think the biggest assignment that like is coming to my mind is when I had to do the autobiography, and that's where I had to like really dig into my earliest memories of my childhood, and like kind of just throw it all out there on what's happened from my earliest memory up to that point in my life.
That's funny, man. Like that seems to be an assignment that clients regularly shit all over. You know what I mean? And I even do too, because I'm like, remember how it used to be like 30-page minimum, and like, I mean, it just was clients who were like, I was very, 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 very sad. I'm like, oh, you got to get, there's a page. You did it, but, and all the time I was supposed to, they thought I was just a hoop to jump through and like glean something out of it. But that's like, you genuinely thought that was really helpful for you. Like,
yeah, because I was able to like see where I started to like, be more rebellious and everything like that.
When did you start noticing that, like in your own upbringing and childhood and everything?
I was about maybe 14 or 15.
Okay, so this is what I have to prepare for, right? Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. And my mom also got very sick. She had Graves' disease. When I was about that age.
Yeah.
And I was sexually assaulted too.
Wow.
And so I was coping with using substances, with whatever it was.
Well, and you're a 14-year-old.
Yeah.
And a female. Like, those are not like, I mean, 14-year-old in general, like, dude, kids are so vicious. Do you remember that? You must have had, I don't know how you're alive.
Red hair. And I was chubby.
Well, yeah, red hair, chubby, weird skin.
Now I have red hair. Not chubby.
Not chubby. Still weird skin.
Still weird skin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was when, I mean, was it, I mean, I guess it's kind of rhetorical, but it was just kind of peers you were hanging out with, friends you were hanging out with that kind of led to a lot of this?
Yeah.
And it wasn't like with heroin, it's not like, did it start there or did it progress to there?
Drinking.
Okay, drinking initially.
Yeah.
Peach schnapps.
Yeah.
That's really?
And Boone's Farm and
Boone's
vodka.
Farm. Yeah.
Dude,
how much has Boone's Farm got people kickstarted on drinking,
Dude, it's
like
such
syrup.
a dangerous drink because it's like, I mean, even if you had any recently,
not probably in 20 years.
I had some probably like a decade ago, and I'm like, man, this is good.
It's like Kool-Aid.
Yeah. I mean, I could see why it's like, tricky, like it could be kind of problematic.
Yeah.
No shit.
So it started there, and then, I mean, and this is sometimes people don't get this because the trope is, well, like, just drink alcohol like everybody else, and that's all it has to be. You know what I mean? Why does it have to get to there? And I'm like, come on, like you're oversimplifying a pretty complex set of, but I mean, how did it escalate to the point where it was, turning into heroin and stuff like that? What did you notice in kind of the development of that?
So at the time, my boyfriend at that time, he started doing like cocaine and we would drink and then do it. And then it just progressed to doing like, I would do whatever I could get my hands on, really. Like I've tried everything under the sun as far as, at that time, what I could get my hands on.
Okay.
So
yeah. And this was And this was just, I mean, part of the, and was it a lot of numbing out? Was that, you just kind of wanted to
I didn't know how to cope with what was happening in my life. Like my mom was on her deathbed and, I was getting sexually assaulted. And so it was just like, I didn't know how to deal with it.
And nobody to talk to either about those things.
At the time it felt like it was fun.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's the shitty part about it. Like, I never try to glorify it, but I'm like, dude, if drugs, like if they weren't so effective at helping you cope in the short term, nobody would ever do them. Like they are incredibly effective. I'm not condoning it.
They work.
I'm saying that the fact that they work and they work so well is why it turns into a problem, because it turns into the long term of it. Of course, we can all look at the side effects of it. We've heard this story before, but the misunderstanding and like the underestimation that's associated with that of how well they work.
I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But like a 14-year-old that's going through all that shit. And I mean, what does a 14-year-old know about dealing with life, let alone having all that stacked on them? And then you have a drug, which is like magic.
Well, right. So this is what happens. And this is why I think it's like, and I'm really actually pretty grateful, you know, I wish, kind of like how we were talking about Untouchable. You and I have talked about this before, and I'm sure you've thought about this before. I wish our culture and you know, people would just do better about realizing that, you know, just so somebody has an issue, whatever the issue is, and yes, if it has a stigma attached to it, just throwing hate at it isn't going to work. Like, I mean, if you want, you know, unless it's, we're going to dump them on some island somewhere or lock them up and throw away the key. So unless that's the goal, you have to realize this. And so what I appreciate is that it's come around to, you know, now I see a lot of billboards all the time. It says, you know, the epidemic and heroin pills, it all kills, like naloxone, Utah, all good stuff, right? Whereas before, I mean,
it was very shameful.
Right. You're a junkie, you're a degenerate, all this other stuff. And like, I just think, okay, take heroin out of it, because you take heroin and that word has a lot of power, right? Or cocaine, a lot of power. And if I just said, okay, hey, so you're dealing with this emotional fallout and this trauma from being sexually abused. You have, you know, parental issues, that you're dealing with grief and loss, and you're all emotional, and you also, you know, are a teenager. I'm going to give you this thing, and when you take this medicine, all that's going to go away, and it's going to go away in like 10 seconds. Like,
hand it over. I'll take it.
Right,
yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Now the thing is, you know, if I say it's heroin, okay, now that's got some connotation to it, but I'm saying like just the idea of that, which is exactly what it is.
Right.
Like, so I just tell people, pump the brakes, man. Don't shit on that as if this is a character flaw.
Stop and think about it.
It's not a character flaw at all.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with it. Like, who wouldn't want relief from all that garbage, you know, that's going on in your life?
I think it helps with kind of taking away that idea of it being a character flaw when you have like someone like you that's as open as you are. Like, look at you, like you're talking about some heavy stuff, and just, this is what it is, you know, like factually describing it. And so do you, and I know I kind of stopped you like partway through your story. You can kind of get back to that, but like, how much of this do you decide to share with clients? Because let me qualify what I'm asking. Because you said that you'll have a client that's like, oh, this shit's dumb, and you remember thinking like that when you first started in with the court ordered therapy, and at that point you decide, okay, maybe I'll share a little bit. How do you gauge what to share with a client based on your own background?
Yeah. Well, I went through a training too, as like the peer support specialist training, and my old job that I did with the recovery support specialist team at Davis Behavioral. They helped teach me like, okay, this is sharing enough information, and that, you know, and it's just using your own judgment really. So like, you know, for instance, those clients that are like, this is just BS. Like, I don't feel like I need to be doing this. And then at that time, if they don't already know a little bit about my story, I'll be like, well, I've been there, you know, I've been in recovery. I celebrated my 14-year mark this last year in January.
Okay.
Right.
How did that, like, so I'm sure you get a variety of reactions, but if you had to kind of give me a general, like how do most people react when you tell them that?
They're just like, oh, wow, that's pretty cool.
Okay.
And then it seems to like, you know, kind of maybe break down that barrier of that wall that they have put up. And
I would
just
think so.
that, I'm just some person that read a bunch of shit in a book.
So it's usually a pretty positive response.
Yeah.
Do you ever get anybody that's like tries to play it like you're like a hypocrite? Like, well, you've done it. How are you going to tell me what to do when you've lived that way? Or is it?
I've never had the hypocrite.
It's usually the like, oh damn, this person understands me. So that's usually the reaction.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the one thing I've kind of noticed about you, Hilary, compared to other, like, cause I've worked with people that they've gotten into, they have 10, 12 years of, and they're in recovery and everything. And it's weird. They have a weird approach to clients with this. And I haven't seen this from you. And that's that this is how I did it. And so this is how you must do it.
Yeah, dude.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is the recipe. Do not deviate.
Right.
I've had that happen to me.
Right.
How so?
So that's why I don't really do 12-step meetings is because of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because like, don't get me wrong, 12-step meetings, they are awesome and they have a purpose. They just didn't work for me because I did run into a lot of people that were like, you got to do it this way or it's no way. And it's just like, no, I'm not going to be doing it that way. I'm going to do it my way because like my way's been working.
Right. And that it seems so rational to think that. But even when like I'm, and I try to be patient with it because what do I know about it? But like even they'll come back, I was like, well, there's not only one path to doing this, and I said, sometimes 12 steps doesn't work for some people. But then they double down. It's because you're not working the 12 steps. I'm like, well,
it's a nice circular reasoning.
I mean, I guess, but I'm just saying like, it's because it's more so than anything it gets, there's a fanaticism attached to that, which I have to give it some credit. You know what I mean? So like, I think like those type of programs are genuinely helpful for some people.
Yes,
and
definitely.
What's bonkers about it is it's like they believe in it so much, it almost gets them mad at you that you don't believe in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and think about that though. Like I think I gave it a comparison. Like if you found some weird cure to something, a disease, but nobody believed you, like how crazy would that make you? And it was like a serious disease. And you're like, no, I'm telling you, this is what you need to do. I'm like, yeah, get the hell out of here. That ain't going to work. I'm like, no, I'm God, like that's the only way I can rationalize in my head how they get so fanatical about it. Cause it's almost like they get mad. And I'm like,
well, it's probably, I'm guessing here and maybe you have some insight into it, but it's like, a lot of times before a person that has addiction issues finally gets it together and, they've achieved some sobriety, it's like they probably tried 12 different times before they find the secret sauce and, the version that works for them. And so it's like in their mind, they're thinking, no, I've tried 11 other ways and the 12th one is the one that works. Wait, don't waste your time on those 11 other ways. This is what it is. And again, I don't know if it's something with the personality
you said 12,
type.
it's 12 steps, bro.
That's right. Yeah. Told you it's 12.
Sorry.
Yeah. So I'm just guessing here. What do you think it is as far as like, why do people hold on to that so strongly? And I guess, maybe share how I guess you kind of explained how you broke free from it and that you didn't like it being done to you, but
yeah, because like it, I've read the whole recovery book from Russell Brand that he talks about the 12 steps, but in his perspective. And I liked it a lot more because like growing up in a very religious home, it was very hard for me to wrap my head around the language of the 12 steps and some of those people that are just like this way or no way. You're not going to be sober if you're going to do this. And it's like, well, I've stayed sober for this long and I haven't done it. Like I was ordered required to go to so many 12-step meetings, which is fine. I learned a lot in those and I did start to learn about my own spirituality, which I think has a huge impact on people staying in recovery. Is their own spirituality, them finding their own connectiveness to other people, because we are social beings and we want that connection to others and having that support. And it's so hard, especially for our clients when they're so ostracized from everybody. And sometimes it's even their family and they don't have any friends. And so it is really hard for them. And so finding those things, I think, really helps with when you're in recovery.
That's what's up.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of like that whole, I like finding, cause what's the step that talks about a higher power?
The first one?
It's the first one.
Okay. What is it?
Well, it's where like you finally acknowledge that you have a problem and you're willing to give it over to God.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm powerless. Okay. I'm powerless. See, cause that's weird. But I've kind of, and I was listening to a doctor talk about this, but then I've reframed it in my own head about how this goes because, powerless just means, essentially like not without assistance. I can't do it's not that I'm powerless.
So I can't do it by myself.
Yeah, dude, I'm powerless to fix my damn car when it breaks down. Okay. But I can take it to a mechanic who can. By the way, I don't want to learn how to fix that because I want to get grease on my hands. Okay. So I'm just saying like powerless is not like because it's weird as a therapist. I'm like, oh, no. I don't want to be teaching my clients that. My whole objective is to empower you. You know what I mean? But powerlessness just admits that, well, not without assistance, but then like in a higher power, like the way they described it is it's more than just like the whole idea is this is more than just me. It's not just me. Like this is a connectivity and interconnected with other people that, and I actually got that from, sorry, I don't have a cough. Somebody told me to get a cough button. What the hell is a cough button?
You press it so you can cough, right?
I guess, but why?
Just cough, bro.
Yeah. Anyway, a cough button. Get the hell out of here. I don't want to hear your cough. But I was watching a completely unrelated video, it made me think about this. Like, have you ever seen that Milton Friedman, The Pencil?
No.
Oh, dude, it is so good. It is so good. I can even pull it up, but the whole idea behind it is that
like an economist or something?
He is an economist, right?
Okay.
But he basically, I'll paraphrase, but basically he just talks about, he holds up a pencil, right? And it's the simplest product on the planet. And he just says, nobody in the world can make a pencil. Nobody.
Oh, I get you.
Right.
Yep. And I know what you're talking about.
And I'm like, well, I probably could. But then he breaks it down and he's like, okay, where like the graphite came from to make the lead came from a mine that had to be shipped over and blah, 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 or whatever. The wood probably came from, I don't know, probably came from this region of the
Brazil
world. And went through this machine in this place. And
what about the yellow paint?
The yellow paint sent here, and then the rubber, the metal that holds the eraser on. And he's like, all these things, all these people were working together to create this product, and you can buy them for like $1 for 1,000 nowadays or whatever they are. And I'm like, that is pretty incredible. Like when you really think about awesome. That, the interconnectedness between people. Cause I was just thinking, yeah, dude, like, and it had nothing to do with alcohol or anything. It was just like I was thinking about that idea of
a perfect metaphor
of a higher power is more than just me, and the interconnectedness with other people is what I'm like, dude, that's amazing. Pencils are amazing. Like, they're not, but they are. That's so cool that those things exist.
Something so like basic and taken for granted that requires people cooperating across the world to make happen.
Right. I've tried to do that, and I've done it in groups, and I'm like, okay, so like think about like NyQuil. Can you make NyQuil? Of course, some dudes go, I can. I know how to do it. I'm like, no, you don't.
Yeah.
No, you don't.
You got some dextromethorphan in your pocket, bro.
Yeah, I do. I was a genetic engineer. Okay, dude. Like,
that's a decent way of looking at like that first step though, because it's not necessarily because the powerless piece bothered me too, but it's more that like I need to learn to be okay with reaching out to other people.
Well, and the religious component is tricky too, right? Because when you go to those meetings, I've been to some of those meetings. Like I sometimes will have my students attend that, and I'll attend it with them. Like we go to in the rooms, and we'll just crash a session, keep our camera off and watch it. And everybody's talking about God the entire time. And I think that can be really intimidating when you're talking more about spirituality, which is a little bit different. You know what I mean? And, but it's also how it's delivered, like who's the messenger I'm bringing this message to you? Cause that's where the fanaticism attached to it worked so well for them. And I think they care about people. I think they genuinely care. And then they're mad because you're not buying into it. But then like we were on a road trip with one of our good friends the other day, and he's LDS, and I mean, or is that PC now, or do you have to say?
You get to say full on Latter-day
I'm not
Saint.
doing that. I'm sorry, guys.
He was a Mormon.
Yeah. Okay. He's Mormon.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, you know, I've had when I was growing up, like when I was living with our polygrapher Ed, he had, you know, missionaries coming over and talking to him, and he was just being nice, and we were always really nice to him, and it's just fun to talk to him. You know, it's not like we weren't being jerks. We weren't like making fun of him or anything. And but I was always listening to them, and they're just so, you know, they just know the basics and everything. But I'm like, if that was, imagine like how he was talking to us about like religion and all that other stuff. I'm like, dude, this is the coolest thing I've ever heard. I was like, geez, am I Mormon now or what? You know,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the messenger, whoever's talking about that really has to bring it in a way that you're going to buy into it.
That was the most captivated I've ever been with that.
Right.
Yeah.
And then if I feel like if they were able to get that down, that would be a much more solid program. But sometimes the messengers are just, I think they make people feel like crap about the whole thing.
Yeah,
So,
I've met some really good people
of course.
that are pretty good messengers of the message of the 12 steps. So, but
you're saying you don't necessarily roll with 12 step. So you like, what is your approach for explaining? So clients probably ask you like, well, how'd you get clean? How do I get clean? How do you answer that?
I call it my aha moment.
All right.
Where I was just tired of being homeless and being in and out of jail, and tired of the lifestyle that you have to do in order to not be sick, because you get extremely sick. Like think of the flu, and you getting the flu like symptoms, like that is like the withdrawals, but 10 times worse.
Damn.
Like
Yeah.
I felt like I was dying.
Yeah. How many times did you go through that before you're like, enough?
I lost count.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you'd go.
Because every time I went to jail, I would have to go through withdrawals for a few
Okay.
days before they would release me.
Okay. And that is rough. Like Mace and I kind of get to see it because, you know, the folks at Weaver County Jail.
Yeah.
We'll see them on day 2 of a, you know, a
Yeah,
heroin
that was
withdrawal.
me at one point.
Wow. That's so wild that, like, I mean, you're like a legit comeback story, and the tenacity that you've had as well. Because, I mean, it's like, I didn't know about the whole that you got rejected when you were trying to go the CNA route as
Yeah.
well. And so like you've, whether it's that or, you know, the test or all these different things, like you don't let shit stop you.
No, I don't. When I put my mind to it, I follow through. There was a few times where I almost gave up on taking the test, though.
I'll bet.
Especially like the first couple times when I wasn't doing the hypnotherapy, and I hadn't found a Phil yet, as far as like watching his YouTube videos and getting his like insight on private tutoring and stuff. I was just so discouraged. I was like, I'm never going to pass this thing. Like, what's the point of even keep trying? And then my oldest daughter, she's like, Mom, you can't stop.
Wow.
You've came so far.
That's
and so
cool.
right.
my kids have helped me a lot.
Well, and honestly,
That's awesome.
when I think about that, like, okay, you doing that, like, I think that has to do a lot with how you have been so successful in recovery, is because it is a personality trait that has gotten you there. I mean, like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to let this stop me. I'm going to figure this out, and I'm going to go a different route, and this sucks, and I'm going to try it again, you know, and then I'm going to wash, rinse, repeat, and add a little new element in there. And like, again, most people would have done that, you know, they would have said, screw this, or they would have just kept doing like the same strategy over and just kind of like, I mean, and you said, no, I'll find this guy. Okay, now I'm going to do hypnotherapy. Okay, now I'm going to do this, you know, and I know even us, like, I always base it, well, this is what worked for me. And I was like, you know, like totally like, oh, this must work for everybody,
Yeah.
you know, and I think we did as much as we could to like facilitate it along, because we really wanted to see this through. And I was like, oh yeah, cool. Cause it's kind of funny, because when people come and it's almost like a bonus. Like if they tell me they have a criminal history, I'm like, oh, you come to the right place.
Yeah. We do the
Let's
comeback
get you
story.
on board.
Yeah,
you know
yeah.
what I mean? So, So any like, That's just awesome, man. That's super cool. I'm glad you stuck with it and you didn't give up, because that would have disappointed me. I'm like, geez. Yeah.
Especially like those first couple of times, like I missed it by a lot of points, like
did
16,
you?
17
Bombed
points.
it, huh?
Yeah. Like, and I was just like, I'm never going to be successful at this test.
Well, hold on. So the most when you bombed it, you missed it by like 17 points or something. What?
Yeah.
Out of the times that you didn't pass it, what's the closest you got? It seems like it came within a couple points.
I thought
1
one.
point.
Yeah.
What? Well, what's worse?
The 1 point.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What do you do? Because you get the results immediately.
Yeah.
What did you do when you saw that?
When I
pass
saw
or the
the
fail?
pass or the fails.
No, when you passed.
When I passed, I didn't believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like refresh, I know.
So they do things a little bit differently, like where they don't show it on the computer screen anymore.
Oh, they don't? Oh, that's lame.
You have to wait till the testing proctor like comes in and escorts you back out, and then the other testing proctor like hands you your results.
It's probably
Does
because
he
like
say
people
anything?
like explode in fits of either rage
Dude,
or
I
celebration.
did.
I mean,
I
me too.
I did. I jumped. I
screamed. Yeah.
I yelled at the guy that was across because he looked at me. I'm like, fuck yeah, baby.
Yeah. Same. Yeah.
Yeah. So when she handed it to me and I saw that it said pass, I was like, and I looked back up at the testing proctor. I was like, does that really say pass right there on that paper? And she's like, yeah.
You didn't believe your eyes, huh?
No, I didn't, because I was so used to just getting the paper and it just said fail. And then it would tell me how many questions I missed it by or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was just like, yeah. And so like at that point, I was just like, when I went in to take the test, I was like, well, it is what it is. Like, whatever the results will be, that's what it will be. And so, and then when I got the pass, I was like, really? That really does say pass right there.
That's badass.
Yeah.
Like
that's super cool.
Like journey. Another social work word is resilience. And but you've got that legit though.
That's still okay. That one's okay.
It's just used so much in
It
such
is.
dumb ways.
It is.
That's what it should be used for.
Yeah.
Like whether we're talking about the test, the recovery, that's resilience. But man, it's dumb.
Yeah. Yeah. No, all those things are true. But yeah, it's no, that's awesome. We're super grateful that you're here. Super grateful.
I'm really grateful for your guys' support.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
Of course. Yeah, we're happy to be there for you. So, well, should we wrap this up?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you got to come on here again, huh?
Definitely.
We should do a Bartruff reunion.
That'd be awesome.
Him come
That'd
on.
be awesome.
I just saw him
with
like
Hilary.
a few days ago.
I know. Yeah. I think it's funny because I have people somehow or another, people who work with him every single time reach out to me and say, so like, really.
He's around.
Yeah. And then I used to see him every now and then, but yeah, I miss that guy. I like him a lot.
Good dude.
Yeah. Really good dude. Genuinely good dude. So you be down for that?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. Even though you had to, come up, you have to drive too far, right?
Well, I was at the Salt Lake office.
Oh, that's a drive.
You guys were right on. You guys were pretty good on time too. Not like those one people who were way too early. Those, if you're not 15 minutes early, you're late. Like,
Yeah.
No, actually,
you're
it's
15 minutes early. Yeah.
But okay. So cool. All right.
appreciate
Anything
you.
else you want to say before we wrap up?
Shout out to Cottages of Hope too. They helped me expunge my criminal history.
Nice.
Hell yeah.
Nice.
They are a very great resource for a lot of different things.
Cool. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Okay. Awesome.
Nice.
Okay. Well, thanks, Hilary.
Yes.
And that about does it for this episode of the Guerrilla Social Work Podcast. We hope you enjoyed the discourse between Jeff and I, as well as the lovely Hilary. Hilary, thank you so much for sharing your story and your talent with all of our clients, and it's been great to have you on board. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Please help us grow by walking over to the 5-star ratings house, knocking on their door, and when they answer, kick them right in the shin. And again, if you're that 3-star rating guy, man, call me, because you need to get into therapy, bro. Okay, I'm just saying, you need help. 3 stars, come on, son, have some dignity. At least give it 1. Just kidding. Anyway, we'd like to stay and chat, but we're lying. Good night.